Therefore I, a prisoner for serving the Lord, beg you to lead a life worthy of your calling, for you have been called by God. The Christian walk is one in which we are submitted to Him, submitted to one another. We are called to live a life that is submitted above everything else. And that is why Paul can use the language of a prisoner of Christ. And it is one that we are called to walk worthy in. When you look through Ephesians 4, you will see that the rest of that paragraph that he's addressing in terms of being a person who is to walk worthy of the calling is in relationship to one another, is in relationship to the church, the operation as a body. Let's think for a minute about the body, the human body. The functions of the body do not operate independently. My eyes do not operate independently of my brain. They do not operate independently of my hearing. They do not operate independently of my heart. All of these different functions from different body parts operate in unison in order to create a functioning human being. The church, similarly, is intended to operate as a functioning body, a functioning entity with unity. So, in spite of the fact that our gifts are incredible things that the Lord has given us, every good and perfect gift comes from above. Every gift you have been given is a gift from Him. It is not something that we get to boast in. It is not something that I have done myself or given myself. Why do you boast as if you have not received it? It was not something that you did to earn it. It is how we all come into this earth with gifts, with the intention to glorify God, to be submitted to one another, to walk a life that is worthy of the calling. Does this mean that I come before the Lord with my righteousness? No, those are like filthy rags before Him. There is nothing I have that I can boast in. But when I walk in a way that I am submitted to Him and submitted to my function within the body, this is where we operate in a way where we can actually glorify Him. And it's not easy to walk submitted. I don't know about you. I don't hear a lot of teaching of what submission looks like beyond very fleeting messages about, not speaking against your leaders. Even in spite of sometimes severe heresy, we're being told, shut your mouth. That's not submission. The Lord calls us to worship Him in spirit and truth. Paul applauded the Bereans that they studied the scriptures. We are not called to do things that diminish our relationship with God for the sake of being in a building called a church. But when we talk about the church, we're talking about the fellowship of other believers. And what I'm learning more and more, and I don't know if this has been your experience, and if this is not, I hope this is an encouragement, is that when you are actually part of a healthy church building, that unity actually is extraordinarily natural. It actually doesn't feel like you are fighting for something. It actually is so visible in the way you are loved by your leaders, and similarly makes you want to be submitted back. I'm not saying that's always easy. I'm not saying it's always perfect, and I'm not saying they're always easy and they're always perfect. But I'm saying when you see the heart of the person as someone who desires to do the will of the Lord, that submission is just a natural reflection of your love for God, is because you see that they are there to build up the church, to edify the church, to train the church. So healthy churches are still important in terms of submission. I really want to emphasize that it's really important to be in a church that serves the Lord, not in a church that is fun or upbeat or interesting and it doesn't glorify God. You're going to find that a very difficult experience to submit, because people are operating in gifts and talents and they're glorifying themselves. But when we come to a place where we are submitted to the Lord and He is leading us in how we walk, it's incredible. It's beautiful to watch what happens inside of those functions, to see how we build one another, to see how we cover a multitude of sins, to see how we grow and learn and sharpen one another. There is real hope in that kind of submission as we are submitted to Christ. So in a practical way, what does submission actually look like? I'm only going to speak for myself because that's the experience that I have. My submission grew exponentially through my walk. So in the beginning, submission for me was starting to walk away from sin, was starting to see that what I was doing was not right. So I was starting to follow just really basic principles of Christianity, like doing things that are not with the intention to be harmful to others, right? Or harmful to me. So that was I would say, a lengthy process of learning that form of submission. When the Lord prompts me not to do this, not to do that, how do I then respond to that? And with time, it started to get easier in the sense that I started to have a better understanding of what was right and wrong as according to the Lord. Now, I didn't stop there. It wasn't that suddenly, now that He's taking me through that point of kind of moving away from the sin I once loved, that suddenly like I was now making all the right decisions. I was not, because then there was this different level where it wasn't just the focus of walking away from sin. Now it was also, how do I walk away from the things that I want that are not necessarily sin, but they're not what the Lord has called me to do? So how do I let go of the jobs that I really, really love, but the Lord is calling me to something else? How do I let go of living where I want to live when the Lord is calling me to live somewhere else? How do I let go of maybe a church I want to attend, but the Lord is calling me somewhere else, right? So that was starting to show me that like even things that were not bad things or evil things inherently in themselves were still not necessarily what the Lord had called for me to pursue. And now I would say there's a growing, I would say, third phase, perhaps, that now I'm starting to see more in, which is how to become more acquainted with just His will in a situation. So before doing anything, before saying anything, being sensitive to His leading. So I already kind of sense or know before something happens, I think I'm discerning this is the Lord's desire, even though there are a lot of options here, or there's a lot of availability. And so moving more and more where I really like the parallel of being a soldier is like when I am a soldier of Christ, right? So there's a lot of examples in which we're referenced in terms of being people who are submitted to the Lord, even in that manner. So if I am a soldier, I am waiting for the instructions of my superior. I'm not just living life however I want to live. And so I do want to continue talking more and more about submission. I think it's a topic that often gets maybe a little bit of a negative connotation. And once you start to maybe develop that muscle, it starts to become more clear that like walking in accordance with the gifts and walking in accordance in the direction that he wants us to go in, right? So he is the one who's going to ordain our path. He is the one who's going to lead our steps. And so when I'm submitted, I want to pursue the steps in which the Lord has ordained for me. I do not want to just be going in any direction, right? So I don't just get in my car and drive wherever I want to go. I get in my car and the Lord has the destination. And so I have to follow his instructions to get to said destination. So anyways, I hope this was edifying. I hope this was helpful. I would like to continue discussing submission in a way where it's not intended to just be biblical and theoretical, but also like, what does it look like practically? Because that is sometimes where the rubber meets the road, right? And we know that faith without works is dead, meaning we're not saved by our works, but a product of my faith, the fruit of my faith is my works. So the product of my faith is my obedience. When I'm obedient to where the Lord wants me to go, that is a demonstration of my faith. It is the fruit of my faith. Right? So I want to continue walking in a way that is worthy of the calling of the believer. Anyways, guys, God bless. Have a great day, night, wherever you are. Bye.